Good evening, ladies. So happy to have you on here tonight. We are doing a little few minutes pre-show here. I have with me special guest Tina Hughes. So excited for you to hear about her and her story in just a minute when we go live here. So if you're on and you're listening, please let us know where you are listening from. And be listening also for a giveaway tonight that you're going to have to actually message in the comment section the word hope. So just hang on to that for a few minutes. Let's see. Okay, it's got to be. Let's see. Hello, Winnie. How are you? Winnie's on there.
Hi, Winnie.
Okay, here we go. It's really close to you, so I don't want to cut the rest of your teeth out, okay? Hey, Joyce. Hey, Winnie. Hey, Susie. When we did this before, Facebook heard the song and they cut us off and we lost.
Really?
So
It's been a learning process.
it has been, especially having operated all this. Cassie just gets to sit there. We miss you, Cassie.
Strengthen, encourage, and motivate you to be and live the purpose He created you to be. Now, your host, author, Bible study teacher, and my sweet, salty sister in Christ, Miss Rochelle Burchett.
Welcome back, you salty sisters, to the Salty Sister Radio Show. What a week it has been, and as you can see, we are missing our salty sister, Cassie.
Yes.
She is with her daughter, and we want to be in much prayer for her daughter, Claire, for God to just intervene in such a mighty way. So, Cassie, we are here, and we are missing you. Tonight, I have with me special guest, Tina Hughes. But before we do that, let's thank our sponsors.
Matthew 5:16. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Hello, my name is Chanel Hunter, and my husband and I are the founders of the Light Ministries. The mission of the Light Ministries is to simply shine our light throughout our region, whether it is a project for our community, providing supplies for ones in need, praying for a family in times of trouble, or just coming alongside others to let them know that someone cares. We're so thankful and blessed to be able to sponsor our salty sister and their show.
Thank you, Randy and Chanel, so much. We do appreciate you allowing us to have this time on the air every week. And before we get started, I'm just going to remind everybody that this Friday night, if you don't have any plans, First Baptist Church is having a Relevant Women retreat, and it is at no cost, and it's Friday night, July 29th at 6:30 to 8:30, Saturday, July 30th. Please make sure you go onto the First Baptist website or Facebook page and register, because I'm so looking forward to being there. And then, of course, don't forget our retreat is going to be on September the 16th and 17th. Tickets will go on sale August the 1st. You can buy our t-shirts right now on Facebook and click on that link to purchase yours to be ready for the Fire by Night Women's Retreat. And with that being said, I want to introduce my dear friend and sister in Christ, Tina Hughes. Welcome to the show, Tina.
Thanks for having me.
Tina and I met in a really strange way, and then our spirits immediately connected,
Yes,
right? And so we're so excited because Tina is going to share her story with us, but I'm going to let her tell her a little bit about how she came to be doing. You've heard me talk so many times about attending Grief Share, and Tina is the leader of Grief Share at Calvary Church every Thursday night at 6:30. I've gone 3 times, and wow, every time I go, even though I would say I'm not like an active grief at the moment, but what the Lord has spoke to me through just being there.
It's amazing.
And the nurturing, it's incredible.
It is amazing. It really is.
And so what I'm going to do is let Tina tell you a little bit about her grief journey with Jordan, her son, and how she came to be doing Grief Share, and just tell us your story.
It's all the Lord.
Yeah.
It's all the Lord, guys. So I've been married 30 years, and my husband and I, we got married in 92, and we kind of started our life journey together. And, we thought we were going to have 2 kids and 3 dogs and a cat and, life dreams.
Of course.
So then we tried to have a child for 10 years. Well, 7 years. We were married 10 years, tried to have a child for 7 years out of that. We've had lots of sevens, so many sevens. But I ended up pregnant with Jordan after I was told that I would not be able to have children, and by 2 specialists, actually. So I had this little brown-eyed, beautiful child that has been such a blessing to my life. And I mean that from the deepest part of me. What a blessing he has been. So Jordan was born in 2002, and he everything was normal till about 19 months. 19 months into it, they found that Jordan had brain tumors.
Wow.
So that kind of started a different journey, Rochelle. So we ended up after, it was a lot. Too much to talk about here.
Imagine,
it was a
yes.
lot. But anyway, we went from east to west. We started out, we had a surgery at Cincinnati Children's, had a tumor in a 19-month-old, a tumor the size of a lemon, removed. And Jordan had great function. I mean, he could walk and run and just fine. Well, so thought that was it, and praising the Lord through that. We were believers then, and so he's 4 years old, and they find that he has another tumor. Well, the problem was he had had 33 treatments of radiation, and this tumor was in the same area.
Oh, no.
So then we were on a different journey, and they wanted to do hardcore chemo, those kind of things at Cincinnati. And so I called St. Jude. So that took us from Cincinnati to St. Jude. So then we had a tumor the size of a grape. And so then that kind of took us on, and we ended up with a 3rd surgery and then a 4th surgery. So from the time he was 19 months old to 7 years, we literally went from Cincinnati to California, the last surgery being at Stanford University. Well, even after we had that one, we come back home in 2010. In April of that year, we had a follow-up scan, and they said that they saw scarring from other surgeries, but no tumor. What's really interesting is that through that time, from April till June, Jordan kept asking, "Mom, when's the first day of summer?" It's just crazy how looking back now, God was preparing us. But anyway, Jordan passed on the first day of summer in 2010 at 7 years old. So what that did, while we were at St. Jude, we saw many, many families, and I saw a lot of grief. I experienced a lot of grief with a whole different, I always call it my St. Jude family, because I had my family here, I had my work here, everything in life was here. And then I started with St. Jude. So we spent, so much time there. We had really 9 families that we were super close to that had the same type of tumor. So that was my family. Well, I saw those families struggle, lose their children, go through grief. I saw a lot of grief. Well, then it happened to us. So while we were there, my husband and I, we were able to stay together because he could work remotely, and that wasn't typical. What was typical, Rochelle, was Mom would be there with a child, 2, 3 children, and Dad would be back home trying to make a way. So we had a vision, and we wanted to start a foundation, and I told Jordan, and it was going to be called the Jordan Light Foundation. So time went on. We had so many specialists that it just wasn't God's timing. It just was not God's timing. So when Jordan passed, my husband looked at me and he said, "What are we going to do in lieu of flowers, St. Jude?" And I said, "No, we're going to start the foundation." And in lieu of flowers, we took in $6,600 and started the foundation. And so we have had that for 12 years now. And we've been able to assist over 800 families.
That's incredible.
But from there, because I know this is the 30-minute show, from there we have we have the mission with the foundation to help families who are traveling over 75 miles from home. So it's major children's illnesses, and they're 18 and older. So then, as time went on, God connected us with some young ladies that were, and it was interesting because I was like, well, I'm not going to be a grandma now. Well, God started putting these young women in my life from 19 to 30 years old, and they wanted to start a puppet ministry. So we started a puppet ministry, and we went to churches, we went to schools, we went to nursing homes, we went to Camp Shawnee, just different things. And then as more and more families, as we started helping, I was introduced to a book. This one.
It's held up here. So if you got ladies can see, so you want to tell us about this book. It's called Holding On to Hope.
Yes. So for many of you that's going through grief, you probably have been given a ton of books. Well, I would kind of look at the back of them, throw them to the side. This little book here came my way, and again, God's timing. It was called Holding On to Hope. And one afternoon, I sat down and read this book, and it changed my grief journey, like majorly changed it. So that was part of why we started the segment in the Jordan Light of bereavement. And I started giving out these books. Sometimes I would give out necklaces, different things through that program. But I have given probably no less than 200 of these out. This is a lady that her and her husband, they had a child, and they ended up getting pregnant with a little girl. The little girl's name was Hope, holding on to hope. Yes. Well, the little girl had a liver disease that she couldn't release toxins from her liver, so she only lived 6 months. Well, the lady gets pregnant again. Gabriel, little boy, same disease. So what she did, she found herself at a place, and I could relate to that because I was a believer when Jordan was going through his journey. Jordan passed, and I found myself shaken to the core. Now, I had no intention ever on leaving the Lord. In fact, that's all I had was the Lord. But what I did find was it was so hard to get back into life. It was so hard to go to church. Worship was different.
Yes.
Everything was different. And this little book, it really, she said, do I believe what I say I believe? And this book parallels the life of Job. And so as I dug into that, and I dug into the book of Job, I found that although Job was a servant of God, that Satan went before the Lord, and the Lord allowed the hedge to be lowered. And she even talks about that. She says, how could a loving God
That's
allow
a
that?
question we're asked a lot.
A lot of people ask that, how could this happen to me? So it kind of took me down that path. And what you find is that Job, 16 times, Rochelle, 16 times in the book of Job, he asked why. He asked why. And you know what the Lord did?
Tell me what the Lord did.
He stayed silent.
He did.
He stayed silent. Yeah. So then, Job, he fell to the ground. He wished he had never been born. He really is a good example for all of us that are grieving, to stay the path with the Lord. Even through your not understanding, the Lord's always there. He's covering you. He's loving on you. But he also, in verse 42, and we were just talking about that. Yeah, in verse 42, what did he say?
42:5, he says that although my ears have heard of thee, now my eyes have seen thee. That's one of my most favorite verses. So many times in life when things happen and you're able to actually see God, when you look back, especially, maybe not at the very moment that you're in it,
right?
But when you look back and you think, wow, and I don't know how people make it without him.
I don't either. I really don't. But anyway, this book is amazing. It's not really long. The back of the book has, it has several weeks on the book of Job that you could use it as a study guide, for a church, for whatever. But it was powerful. My own book is marked up like you would not believe. I still go back to that book. And then this book, I'll tell you how. You want me to go ahead and tell you how Grief Share started, or you want to?
Well, here's what I want to tell you
is
that. She wants to give this book away to somebody that may be going through a grieving process. And what we're going to ask you to do, I know that some of you may be listening on the radio, but if you can go to our Facebook page or even our YouTube page and comment hope,
Yes.
We're going to be doing a drawing to be able to give this away, but you can also get this on Amazon.
Yes, you
And
can.
another really neat thing, as you can tell, Tina has joined us and posting on Salty Sister, our page, and she's going to be actually taking us through some of the things about the life of Job. Be looking for those weekly with Tina. But I'm going to let you tell me how I love this story, how you came to Grief Share through this book,
Yes.
Holding On to Hope.
Yes, absolutely. So, we had a ladies' meeting at church, and our pastor had asked a lady from Syersville to come and speak. Well, this lady, she had lost her husband. I mean, not her husband, I'm sorry. She had lost her son. And he was working construction. He got plowed over, and she was a believer. She had taught Sunday school for, I think it was 24 years. That morning, Rochelle, I was at my house. I was getting ready to go down into my basement, and I clearly heard the Holy Spirit spoke to me, and he said, take one of these books. So I took this book, I brought it up, I put it in my purse, I went on about my day. I never thought another thing about it. It was in my purse. I go to class that night, or to the ladies' meeting that night, and I thought, well, I'm going to forget to give her that book. I watched in awe of her speak about her child, and she gave the Lord praise through the whole thing. She cried, but she gave the Lord praise. I remember the first time I ever spoke at the Jordan Light, and I remembered that I spoke very calmly. The Lord gave me peace that surpassed all understanding, because I didn't know if I could do that. I didn't know if I could get up and talk about Jordan and our journey. And he always gave me peace. And then afterwards, when I would come home, it would be lonely. It would be all those things that the enemy would try to get in my head.
Yes.
Why are you doing this? This is too hard. Things like that. Well, so I laid this book down. And this one, what's funny, this one doesn't have it on it. But some of her books have the word grief share. And this may be an older one, because I gave a ton of these out. But I had one that said grief share on it. So I took it and I laid it down in the pew. And after she got finished, I went over. Well, before she got finished, I glanced over at the book and I saw the word grief share. And I thought, grief, share. Grief, share. Wonder what that is. So I go over and I tell Lonja, and I said, I wanted to tell you that, about my son and da-da-da-da. And I said, and if I could say one thing to you, I said, I want to give you this book. I said, if you find yourself at home and you need comfort, open this book up. I said, I promise you, out of all the books you get, this one will help you. And I said, and another thing, and I've talked to you about this, and this just hit me, that I wanted to share with all of you. I said, another thing is, I want you to watch for the love letters. And that has been something that's really carried me through. I met a lady at actually a Perry Stone conference, and she asked if I could go to lunch with her, and we did. And she lost her son. She said every time she went on a mission trip, that God would place a child in her hands that reminded her of her son. And she said, Tina, I call that a love letter. And that was years ago, Rochelle. I tell everybody about that. And now it's so interesting, because I get blue butterflies, the number 7, started getting 77, and rainbows. That's my main ones. And I get the eagle. Well, so people start getting the love letters that God gave to me, but they start sharing their others. So Lonja says, oh, Tina, you're not going to believe it. I got feathers in my front yard, and it reminded me so much of the angels that were watching over me. It hit me so strong. So I went back, I looked up the word grief share. I called the grief share company, and I talked to someone there, and I found that it was a program that I really felt strongly about, and I felt like we needed to bring it on board. So Grief Share is a program that has over 15,000 churches that are involved in it. And here's this little brochure here.
Yeah, and this is the book. Yeah,
This is the book.
There's an actual book, Grief Share book. It's really, really nice, because it's got 13 weeks study in it, right?
Yes.
And each week it is, I love what you say, it stands alone.
Mm-hmm. Each week stands alone. You do not, if you want to come in on the 6th week, you're going to get something from that. Every week stands alone. And it's not set up to be classes like another class at church. It's a support group ministry. It's a Christ-centered support group ministry. And it's, we meet weekly. We're meeting, you said, at 6:30 over at Calvary. But this is so neat, because they have, in the Grief Share book, they'll even show them, there's like 46 Grief Share experts. I'm not a Grief Share counselor. I'm a facilitator of this program, and but I love that the video is 3 parts, Rochelle, you know that.
Yes.
I mean, there's a video that you watch, there's discussion, and then there's this workbook, and you do that on your own. And
one thing I want to say, it does say grief share, but one thing I loved about coming to your class and to your sessions and watching this is that people don't have to share.
Nope.
They don't. It's not like you have to go and pour your heart out and relive that every moment, but there is opportunity to do that.
That's right.
And even if you don't want to introduce yourself, you don't even have to do that. You can just sit there and listen.
Yes.
And I've just enjoyed it so much.
There's never any pressure. And I think that people love that. And then I think that people have the misconception, and you've been in 3 classes now, and I want you to tell the audience, I think people get misconceptions. They think grief share. In fact, there was one lady said to one of the ladies that's in the class, said, why in the world would you want to go over there and just be sad?
Well, so it's not sad. It's so uplifting. And I think, like I said, as I'm not in like current grief at this very moment, but the things I wish I would have known before when I was in different stages. And it's not about just physically losing someone to death. It can be a relationship. Yeah. It can be
divorce.
It can be anything.
Bankruptcy.
Everything.
Yes.
So it's just not about losing people that's dying.
Right.
And so I feel like that the words that, the first week, the last week before last, he gave me that word, stuck. And then this week it's been struggle.
I heard your little mini message.
And so I'm like, okay, so this is the S words here in this. So every time I go, I've taken pages and pages of notes, and I'm looking up on my phone these words, and all this stuff is just connecting together. And I look at it a couple of ways. While I'm not in active grief at this very moment, there are still some things that's very raw that has helped me process those, even now, so far long ago.
Right.
But it's also equipping me for when I am we are all going to experience it at some point in our life. And then also how that I can use the things I'm learning to support others who are going through grief at the same time too. This book is just wonderful how it's laid out, and it's got things. I love to consider this, always love to consider this portions of it.
I do too. And what she's talking about there is the lessons are set up, and it'll always have like somebody's journey, and it'll ask you questions. And once it asks you the personal questions, it'll say, well, consider this. And then, you know what I love? It says talking to God. So it'll say, consider this. Sometimes you find yourself, Rochelle, that you just don't know what to say. And that's okay, because God wants us to be raw. I think a misconception is that we're not supposed to question God.
Right.
Well, if you look at King David, if you look at Job, you look all through the Word, people mourned. What's the smallest verse in the Bible?
Jesus wept.
Jesus wept.
But didn't even Jesus say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?
There you go.
So are we going to be on session 10 this week? Lessons of Grief Part 1, or are we on Part 2?
Part 2.
So we're going to be on. So the thing I took away that I felt was just, wow, hit me in the head when I came to the first meeting, maybe it was the second one, that said that we want to ask God or be aggravated or angry at God, why did you take them from me? Mm-hmm. And he can't take something that's not yours.
Right.
And that really spoke to me, because it's like, I don't own that person.
Right.
They're a gift on loan from God.
Yes.
And so therefore he didn't take anything from me. That was just real eye-opening to me to think about the ownership part. And he says that you don't, it's about being, you said about being a steward through it, stewarding through grief.
Yeah.
I think you had some verses you wanted to share.
Well, I think you're talking about the stuck section, and I love that too, because, one of the guys, he really brought that out, and he said, we don't own nothing. And we don't. We tend to think that we do. And then another thing they said that was kind of raw was, how did he say that? He said, believing that God would take something from you that you couldn't live without.
Essential. The essential word.
Essential.
Yes.
And are they essential to your living?
Can you live without them? We feel like we cannot. And this is by no means me saying this to diminish the thought of grief, but just understanding some of those things.
Yes.
Really.
That we do have to. Yes. We have to live, so therefore they're not essential in the sense of us living every day.
Even though it's painful.
But they do bring out, but they're precious.
Yes.
And what's precious about it is exactly what you just said, the gift.
Yeah.
The gift of what they have given to our lives. And I showed a video last week, and we were talking about that earlier, and it's actually on, I think I put it on Salty Sisters, not sure, but I can. But it was a lady that she had lost her husband, but she had since then remarried,
Yes.
had children and all that. But I loved when she said, because of the loss of my husband, Aaron, I am not getting over, I'm getting through, but I have carried him along. And my new husband, he loves me because of the person that Aaron has made me through his life and through the loss that I've had to live through.
That was beautiful.
Oh, it was powerful.
And I think
it was so powerful.
You also put an illustration on there where there's a ball in a mason jar, and the ball does not get smaller. The jar just gets bigger, and we don't go over grief or under grief. It's completely through grief.
Mm-hmm. And a couple of things we always say that I really do want to tell you all, that we always say grief and joy coexist. And that's the ball brings that about, because the ball stays the same. The jar gets bigger because life does have to go on. Your understanding, the pain is, you still have ambushes, but thank God the intensity changes. Because if the intensity stayed like it was when you first lose someone, we couldn't survive that, Rochelle.
No, we could not.
So God's grace is sufficient. And so we always say that, and we always say that you grieve because you love.
That's right. That's
and
good.
the ultimate grief, if you take it back to the cross,
Yes.
is, when you take Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, and he said, "Let this cup pass from me," but then he caught himself. But if it
be your will,
be
Father.
your will, Father.
I love that garden
Yeah.
scene, because I think I hear the agony. I think about what he thought about ahead in time to get through what he got through, so that we could be free from all these burdens and afflictions and things, in such a sense that we can depend on him for our joy.
But I do want to encourage people that this program goes from, is it normal? And all the way from just all the feelings that you're having. And, is it normal? And yes, it is normal. It's normal to feel crazy. It's normal to have mental fog. It's normal to take longer to get through your job. It's normal to have to rest. It's all those things are normal. And lamenting, crying out, that's normal. And, so I want people to be encouraged with that.
Well, before we have a few minutes left, I told you 30 minutes would go super
I know,
fast.
it
See, it's
did.
like really, we have so much more to talk
did.
about. We will be definitely having you back on the show. But you want to share with y'all the one that you do through the holidays.
Yes.
That book.
Okay. So we haven't set the date yet, but we will, and I'll let you know. But last year we did this one. It's called Surviving the Holidays. And it's a program. There's a small book that comes with it, but it is so powerful. And especially if this is your first holiday, it doesn't matter if it's your first, second, or whatever. It gives you, it's a survival guide. That's exactly what it says. And so we'll probably do that one even before Thanksgiving. So somewhere in November, watch for that.
Okay. And you have one more book that you thought was good that you brought along too.
This is one that you can go on griefshare.org. And when you go on griefshare.org, it will actually give you our meeting times. It'll give you some videos that tell you more about the Grief Share program. You can actually sign up for daily emails, grief
I saw
emails.
That you all had done that.
Which is amazing. It's 365 days. And it's like a mini devotion that comes to you every day. But you can also purchase this book.
Okay.
And so this book is Grieving with Hope.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's been a pleasure to have you. Has it not been a pleasure?
It has. I've really
now you're going to come to Grief Share with me too.
Yeah,
yes.
Can I come now?
Yes, everybody come. Bring somebody with you.
It is a commitment, but once you get there, it's just the whole atmosphere.
Well, I love that you came and you're not actively grieving, but you brought a ton of people.
I'm just dragging everybody with me.
Well, and that's okay. That's awesome. But I love that it has really given you something for you.
Yes.
It's
all about ministering to each other in whatever capacity that we're in that we're going through.
Yes.
All right. Well, Tina, I appreciate you so much being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. And so we will not be having the regular Bible study this week. We're going to cancel that till August. Again, the tickets will be on sale August the 1st. Please make sure you purchase your T-shirt and just follow the page. And Tina's going to be doing a weekly thing about the life of Job, and you're not going to want to miss it on our page. So thank you so much for tuning in, Tina. It was wonderful to have you. We will have you back.
Thank you so much.
Until next week, stay salty, sisters.